Hello, hello. Welcome to our Tuesday chat. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Tuesday chat. Let's get myself situated here. Okay. So, welcome. Give it a moment. Make sure I'm not getting feedback from my phone. Hello, hello. Hello, Auntie Karen. Hello. So, tag, share, invite some people to join us. Sometimes we have to encourage others to, hey, Yoki, we have to encourage others to start this conversation, to start thinking about things by simply, sharing the posts, tagging them in, this live session, encouraging them to join in. And when we do that, sometimes they wonder, why did she just tag me, or why did he just tag me? And it's simply because you realize that you want to start a conversation with them and you are not sure how they're going to receive it. So by having them join and watch our live chat, you're hoping that some things that you've been wanting to talk to them about maybe, you know, will be easier to discuss, because that's what it's all about. We've got to start having these conversations and talking about different things so we can make sure we're building a more inclusive society. So, who am I? I am Tanika Mayhew Butler. And I always tell everyone, for years, I never really used my maiden name, which is Mayhew. But a couple of years ago, I Googled myself, and there is another woman who lives in the state of Georgia as well with the same name. I know it's spelled exactly the same way with Tanika, and her name is Tanika Butler. So I realized at that point I really needed to do certain things to make sure people realize that we are two separate individuals, because it's really easy in systems for people to get paired up as one. So, but I am Tanika Mayhew Butler. I am a recently retired educator. I worked in the public school system for 27 years. And during those 27 years, I was a science teacher. And the majority of the years, I was a school counselor. I am happily married, and we are the parents of two wonderful young adults. We have a son who is 23 years old, and we have a daughter who is now 22, Kendall. And our movement, our purpose is all about Kendall. That's where everything comes from. Our team, when it comes to Autism Walks, is Kendall's Crusaders. Everything comes about because of Kendall, because she is the reason why we do what we do. So I retired early and started a business called Kendall Autism Support and Consulting. And with this business, I am here to train um, employees. I'm here to train families and support them on this autism journey. So those sessions can occur face to face or by webinar. But I'm here because I realize that we cannot expect individuals to know what to do or understand autism when we're not providing them with training. We're not creating, the goal for Kendall Autism Support, because I'm the lead consultant, is not about creating autism experts. It's all about autism understanding the brilliance of autism. That's what it really is all about for me. And making sure people feel more comfortable and confident as they interact with individuals on the autism spectrum. The more others are comfortable, the more parents will become comfortable in moving beyond the four walls of their home. And that's what I want to make sure we're doing more of. So it's two parts. Families, there are things that, we've got to do better about. And then businesses and schools, there are things we've got to do better about. So parents, we have a part. And employers and school systems, we have a part as well. So that's the reason for Kendall Autism Support and Consulting. I am the lead consultant, and once again, I provide training and webinars, whether they're face-to-face or live, and I support parents one-on-one. So earlier I jumped on and I kind of mentioned everything that's in the background for me, and I just want to, I know it looks like a lot, so let me just clear up kind of what that is. One of the things I encourage parents to do as they parent a child on this autism journey is to find a hobby that has absolutely nothing to do with autism. Absolutely nothing. Not a book. I don't want you, I mean, just absolutely nothing. And so that's what happened for me many, many years ago. I went to an experience with something with someone that was a beater, making jewelry, and it kind of grew from there. So everything you kind of see behind me, that's a lot of beads. It's beads on the table. If I kind of lean this way, the look like little tool storage things, those hold beads as well. They're bead boards with half-made necklaces on the table. So that's a lot of what you see there. Then I also believe in keeping positive words in front of me. So when people have given me positive messages, a lot of those are the pieces of paper you see tacked on the back. Hello, Donna. Thank you for joining us tonight. So what may look like chaos is actually my escape from my autism world, because it is our world, because we are an autism family. So I'm not telling you to do something I haven't done myself. I've just turned this hobby into a little bit more, and I actually do now make jewelry as another business as well. And I'll put the link in the comments where you can find those items. So that's what all the chaos is that, is behind me. It's beads. I make jewelry. And that's simply because I needed an outlet that had absolutely nothing to do with autism. And it started from there many, many years ago. And it's just kind of grown over the years to where I now have a business where I make jewelry. But it allows me to take my mind off of this autism journey. So thank you for those of you that are joining us tonight. Once again, share, tag, invite some people to join us. But what I want to talk about tonight is why we need to make sure we are providing moments for experiences and exposure for our wonderful babies on this autism spectrum. Now, why do I say we need to provide those moments? When we do not provide those moments, what happens is, and it's a phrase I heard a long time ago, and the phrase was poverty of experience and poverty of exposure. And that can be used with many things, but that is what happens when we stay confined to our home as parents when we have children on the autism spectrum. We've got to go out into the world. We've got to make sure we're doing different things. And in doing those different things, we want to make sure that we are providing those experiences. And in providing those experiences, I know we're worried about, what's going to happen if a meltdown occurs. That's where things are two-part. That's where Kendall Autism Support and Consulting, where we provide that training for businesses. We want to make them feel like, we want people to leave their house and we want them to feel comfortable in a business. So it's two parts. Parents, we got some things we can do, and businesses, there's a part that you can play in this as well, because inclusion, that's what we want to do. We want everyone to feel comfortable leaving their homes. We want parents to not feel like they're going to have the stares of judgment when something happens, and instead, they want to feel like they're being supported. So that's what it really is all about. Yeah, and that's what I want, Donna Marie. I want people to feel like they can leave their home, and I truly understand that it is not, always going to be easy, but I want to get everybody thinking about what we can do in a sense of some trial controlled experiments. And I know people are like, what do you mean? It sounds like we're doing a scientific experiment, but it really is how you kind of build things up. And what do I mean by that? Over the years, we've been able to do different things with Kendall, but it didn't always start out that we were able to do different things with Kendall. Kendall has sensory needs, and we've got to respect sensory needs that individuals have. We've got to not assume that they should just, not have those sensory needs. But what we can do is work on how to get them more adjusted to different environments. So that's that whole thing of experiences and exposure. So we want to make sure we're providing those moments, and we can start out with them in very small increments. So, for example, going to the grocery store. One of the things that we used to do early on, and I must admit now, a lot of times now, I do order online. But we'll go out. Kendall and I still go out, so let me just say that. And at one point, every Saturday, we were going to the grocery store. And that was because we were following a really strict diet. That's a whole nother night, a whole nother topic. And a big part of it was waking up first thing in the morning and hitting the grocery store as soon as they open. And I know for some people, they're thinking, oh my goodness, on a Saturday morning, some stores open at 7. Yes, and if I could be there by 7:10, 7:15, I wanted to be there with her at that time. Why? Because the store was not as noisy. There were fewer people in the store. And most stores at that time are playing, really soft music. The PA system, nobody's really over the intercom a whole lot screaming for cleanup here or meet someone at the back door there. So, that's the way I controlled that situation. And I was prepared if I needed to leave a grocery cart to leave the grocery cart. So one of the things is think about going early in the morning when that store first opens. And be prepared that, you may only be in the store for 5 minutes. That's it. They may not be able to handle it past that 5 minutes, but it starts with the 5 minutes. We can't just not go out and about. We've got to just slowly start exposing them to different things. So that's one of the things to keep in mind. I always say, if you see me looking at paper, that's simply because I want to make sure I hit my points, and not that I am just going on and on about things that really and truly don't matter. So it's really important that we provide those moments of exposure and experience. So the grocery store, like I said, try it in small increments. Try when the store first opens. We've gone to places for her to play games, arcade games with indoor bowling. And if you notice, here it is. I'm not saying the name of a place. And so in those moments, though, we were there when the doors opened. So when they opened at 9 o'clock, we were there at 9 o'clock. And typically the people that were there were only focused on one thing, and that was, they were preparing for a bowling league. So we really were able to move about with the games and everything without anyone else bothering us. She would have free realm of that establishment with all of the games. They were having to turn things on like the go-karts because no one else was there. So that allowed us to, expose her to all of the games and the lights, but we were prepared as well that if it became too much, that we were willing to leave. So we've got to be willing, parents, to try those things and be prepared that sometimes you may have to leave, but it does not mean to abort completely and never go back. We've got to make sure we're trying those things, because the more we expose our children to different sounds and environments, the better it's going to make for us, because we cannot live in the house. I know it seems easy to stay hidden away, but we cannot live in the house. Yes, schedule. Yes, those trips are so important. And I know people feel like, I don't want to have to schedule everything like that. But in time, you won't have to focus on going when the store first opens. That's a big thing. Now the older Kendall has gotten, there are things now that I can just say we're going to the store. The main thing for her is me telling her what we're going to do and probably how long we're going to be in the store. So it's moved from her not wanting to go to the store because she didn't know what to expect to more of, I just want to know how long we're going to be there. And once she understands that we're not going to stay there long, she's much better about things. So we want to make sure we're providing those experiences. So part of that comes down to, I shared a picture earlier. This weekend I celebrated my 50th, and we had a party here at the house. And Kendall was here. She was unbothered by the people, the music. None of those things bothered her, simply because we've had Kendall around people. So people have been around, our friends have been around Kendall, so they were not surprised by things that needed to be done just for Kendall. For example, she was very adamant that I cut my birthday cake Saturday night, and that was stopping her from going to take a bath. So we made sure at one point it's like, you know what, let's stop things and go ahead and cut this cake. Simply because we knew, she expected the birthday cake to be cut on a birthday. And that's what we went ahead and did. And it was close to the end of the party anyway. But she was unbothered by all of the people. Everyone else was used to being around Kendall. So those things did not rattle her. But that's all because of experiences and exposure. They were exposed to her, and I know some people may not like my verbiage. I always say you got to worry because some people get really sensitive about words. But they were used to being around Kendall, and Kendall was used to being around people. So because of that, she was unbothered about the party that was going on in the house. She could care less. Her big thing was cut the birthday cake before the birthday ends. So the more we're able to, have those controlled moments, and they start small, and you start extending that time, the better things are for you and your family. Now, when we're thinking about having those meltdowns, we've got to make sure as well that instead of just running out the store, that we try and talk that individual through some calming strategies, some coping strategies, so that you can get them to work on de-escalating. And I know that may seem easier said than done, but when we just snatch and run away, we haven't worked on any coping mechanisms other than just escape. And we don't want them to feel like their only way to handle a situation is just escape. We've got to work on, breathing techniques, them listening to you, telling them it's going to be okay. That's all part of the process of trying the 5 minutes, and maybe the 5 minutes, jumps to 15, and then the 15 can turn to 30, and things totally change. When we go to the mall, we used to go first thing when all of the stores open, same thing, because it wasn't a lot of people. The movies. I try to make sure we see the first show. I really do not like to go to the movies with her on opening weekend, but if we have to, we do. And I'm very careful about what theater I choose. I make sure we have her headphones with us, and I try to get an in seat just in case. But over time, she's actually gotten much better about being in a movie theater, but it's all because we have exposed her over the years. And so she's prepared for what's going to happen. She knows she's going to get in there, the lights are going to go low, and she's going to put her headphones on because that surround sound is a bit too much. So we've got to make sure we're creating those moments where they are, able to experience certain things and that exposure. Now, when you're not sure, you can always contact a business if you're not sure about when, if you think maybe the beginning when they open is not the best, and ask them when are their low traffic hours. And they may give you a window and let you know what, this is when things are really slow for us. And you can let them know why you're asking. A lot of employers really don't understand, how things that they do and things that they may possibly change could really help those of us who are raising children who are autistic or, have sensory issues because they have ADHD, or the new thing you're starting to hear is more that they're neurodivergent. So we want to make sure, businesses are being considerate, and I'm going to talk about a couple of things businesses can do as well. Looking to see, and yes, and some movie theaters do offer sensory friendly, but you've got to call. Just call and ask, and if they don't, suggest it to them. They may not have ever thought about that. We can't assume all businesses are fully, knowledgeable about sensory issues that seem to impact the lives of individuals on the autism spectrum. So don't be afraid to call a business and ask them, do they offer sensory friendly hours? And if they're like, what are those? Explain it to them. And they may actually be very open to trying something they had not tried before. It's a win-win because that business then is known as an inclusive business in the community. So I'll talk about a couple of things that businesses can do, but some things we can do as we try to prepare to increase our experiences and our exposures with our babies. If it's a sound, let's just say it's a loud PA sound, or maybe it's the sound of a drill going, fire drill or something like that. Record the sound and then let that individual hear the sound on low and allow them to control how they take the volume up. That way you are slowly exposing them to that sound. And it could be the sound, let's just say you're preparing to go to the zoo and you don't know how they're going to respond to all of the animals. Go online, find some sounds of some zoo animals. And once you do, allow them to control the volume. But that allows them to feel like they have some control, and you let them know this is something we may encounter when we go to the zoo. So that the zoo experience is not just brand new to them. They have some awareness of it before they actually enter the zoo. So remember, we can kind of, help them be prepared for the sounds they may hear by simply recording that sound, finding that sound online, and allowing them to control the volume and to hear what could possibly that sound could sound like, how the pitch of that sound could be. And that's one way we can do things better as parents. Another thing, if we know bright lights are an issue, think about putting on a hat. A lot of times, some of the grocery stores, it's the fluorescent lights. They're really bright. And if that is a concern, shades are one option, but also a hat. Because it's going to do the same thing that a hat would do out in the sun. It's going to shield their eyes from that fluorescent light. So that's one way of, making sure we're prepared as we're trying to build up on our experiences and exposures. Another thing I mentioned before, those 5-minute trips. Just prepare yourself for a 5-minute trip. You're going in, you may grab one thing and you're going back out the store. And you're going to let them know we're going to go in the store. And while we're in the store, I only need to pick up one item. And then we're going to leave. While we're in the store, the lights may be kind of bright. So I'm going to give you a hat. Or I'm going to let you put these shades on. And I promise we're not going to be in the store long. You're reassuring them. Now, you got to hold your word and not get lost in the store. Now, let me just say that. If you're telling them you're going to go in and come back out, you've got to go in and come back out. You can't, get caught up in something in the store, because then they're not going to believe you moving forward when you tell them it's going to be okay. Another thing, Delta has started doing something, Delta Airlines, when it comes to first flights. And they will allow, I'm not sure what the date is and what the schedule is, where individuals on the spectrum are able to board a plane and get an idea of how the plane looks and, where the seats are and where the pilot is located, to help children prepare for that first flight. Now, there are also a lot of great flight videos that are on YouTube that you can watch, flight simulations, to kind of give them that feel of what could happen when they take flight. You can visit the airport if you're preparing for a flight. Get in the car, drive to the airport, get out the car, go as far as you can go before a TSA blocks you. But all of that so they can see how much movement is going on in the airport, how busy things can be. But let them know this is not something we're going to stay and do today. It's only going to be for a small amount of time, and then we're going to leave. But let them know, hey, I'm just getting you ready because we're going to go see grandma, and we're going to have to get on the airplane to do it. So you're preparing them by exposing them piece by piece to what could happen on the airplane. So that's something to look into. I know Delta is doing it. I'm not sure how they set up their schedule, but I'm sure if you reach out right now, Delta has developed a great reputation for being very friendly to individuals with disabilities and sensory needs. So reach out and ask them, what you need to do if you want to participate in their first flight experience for those with sensory issues. Another thing, when we tell the individual what we're going to do, we want to give them time to process the information. That's something we've got to remember. We can't just throw it all at them and not give them time to process what we're saying. So we want to allow them to pause and think about it. And you know your child. You know when they're thinking about what you're saying. And I can clearly tell you when Kendall does not understand something, which is a big difference from when she does not like something. So there's a difference when she does not understand what's being said to her compared to when she does not like what is being said to her. So you know your child well enough to know the difference between the two, but we want to make sure we still give them time to process what we're saying, because it's real easy for us to assume once we say it, they immediately get it and they're okay, and we can just kind of move on from there. So give them that respect of time to process. Now, to prepare for those moments, you may want to put together a sensory bag or a sensory kit. And that means you always have some headphones available. We always have headphones available in the car so that, if she needs them by chance, we have them. We never just kind of pop up and go to the movie theater, but you never know, we could be somewhere and the sound is a bit too much. So we keep a pair of headphones in the car at all times that we can use to go to the movies. If light, that sunlight or fluorescent lights, keep some shades. Keep a hat that they like. Let them pick out the shades. Allow them to pick out the hat. All of those things, include them in the process as you are creating that experience that's going to happen. And of course, exposing them to different things beyond the four walls of our home. We've got to make sure we're moving past those four walls, because when we do that, we're hurting them and we're hurting ourselves, because we then build up that emotion of, you start to feel mad, and you're mad at your child because you feel like your child has changed your life and you just want to be able to go and do. So when we aren't willing to take those moments and build up that experience and exposure, we've got to understand it becomes a two-part thing that can really turn into a kind of toxic environment, because our children can sense when we're not happy with them. And even though you may think you're not showing it, that frustration, they sense when you're frustrated with them in areas that they can't control about who they are. So we don't want to close ourselves off, because when we close ourselves off, it hurts the entire family. So we've got to make sure we're working to prepare for those opportunities for experiences and exposures. Get to know your child's triggers. Share those triggers with, others in your family if they're supporting you. Let them know. I let people know that Kendall is going to take off running if a flying bug comes. And most people say they're afraid of bugs. If it's a walking bug, she's not going to dart. She's going to scream for someone to kill it. But if it's flying, she is going to take off. It does not matter anything about safety. Her thought is all about, I want to get away from the flying bug. So, know your child's triggers to know that, okay, what do I need to do to prepare them for this visit to the store, the trip that you're going to take on the plane, if you're going to take a cruise, all of those different things. If you're preparing for a trip to the beach, get some beach sand, put it in a container, allow them to feel what that sand is going to feel like on their feet. That is an experience and a sensation a lot of us forget about. We just get so excited because we're thinking, wow, they're going to see the beach, they're going to be excited, they're going to love it, and their feet may hit the sand, and it takes away anything that relates to excitement, because they're just, that experience of the sand and the grit is too much for them. So prepare them for whatever the experience is going to be as much as you possibly can. Can you prepare for everything? No, because life happens. Life's. That's the best way to put it. But we've got to make sure, even though life is lifing, that we're still living, is what it comes down to. That we are not living within the restraints of the four walls of our home. So prepare for those things. Before I keep going, and I normally don't ask any questions about things, I'm looking in the comments. I'm trying to make sure I am being a little bit more diligent about my comment section to see, because feel free to ask questions. If I can answer the question, that's my goal. That's what it's all about for me in these talks. Businesses, how can you help us with this? I mentioned before, set up some sensory friendly hours. That would be great. Where you turn your lights down low, that you're not going to use your, announcement system, the speakers, to say clean up on aisle 7. That, you talk to your workers about what it means to have this sensory friendly hour that has been set up. And those are little things you can do to create a more inclusive society. It just takes a lot of small things. It really is not major changes that have to occur when it comes to businesses. And a lot more businesses really, yes, I'm saying it, need to, figure out how to create some sensory friendly hours. Because as much as I'm talking about things to do to prepare, there's still going to be individuals on the spectrum that's not going to work for them. So the best thing is when they go into the store, that all of the nice displays are not flashing lights. The PA system is not constantly going with someone calling. The cashiers and the people working in the store understand it may take a little longer for checkout. Those are things that the store can do to prepare for such a time as sensory friendly hours. But we've got to make sure that we're doing our part as parents, and that the stores, that you all can do more as well to support making a more inclusive society. Now, I've said it before, it's really and truly all about being inclusive. The more we're able to be a more inclusive society, the more parents are going to feel comfortable leaving their houses. I hate hearing that people are staying indoors. And I know part of it has to do with the judgment. So as I'm here trying to educate the public, hopefully they'll start to feel less judgment when they're out and about and their children may have a meltdown, because it does happen. So before we judge and just think it's a bratty child, step back and ask yourself, could this child be experiencing a sensory overload from being in the store? And take the judgment away. We all have a role we can play here to make things easier and make our community better. It's not just the parents, it's everyone. We all have to play a part here. No one has blame. We all have parts we can play to make things a lot better. So do those things. Make sure you're creating, moments for experiences and exposure for our babies, and not just letting them stay at home. Now, I'm going to jump back to my topic that I keep bringing up. Please make sure you are getting a state ID for individuals that have an intellectual disability. They deserve a state ID and not the school ID. So the same way we make sure that we get the learner's permit, we want to make sure we're getting them a state ID. Look into what the requirements are for your state, and then we want to make sure that we're scheduling that appointment and getting them their state ID. It does not matter their intellectual disability. They should have a state ID just like everyone else has a state ID or driver's license. It is all about making sure we're doing things to not make them feel less than. And when we, negate to get them that state ID and just use that school ID as long as we possibly can, that's what it comes off as, that they're not as important. Thank you. I'm just trying to make sure that we're having conversations, because that's what it's all about to me and my voice. I've been on this journey. I worked in the school system. I was in that school system on that journey that included a lot of trials and tribulations. So it was not a perfect journey as Kendall matriculated through the public school system, but we had some wonderful teachers along the journey. I wouldn't take anything away from any of the teachers and teachers assistants. Bus drivers, everything that we've come across. They have been wonderful over the years. And we're now, like I said, looking for a placement for a day program. When you leave the public school system, it is no longer about what you're supposed to receive. It's now about eligibility and, more of a, do they think you fit and do we want to actually enroll you, which is different from school system where they have to enroll you as a student. So things are different there. That transition is very eye-opening. That it's a constant, but it is what it is, because life is life. But guess what? We're going to keep on living. And that's what we are doing. So, any questions? I know I talked about a lot tonight, and how we've got to make sure we are, doing our part as a community, and how we are doing our part, as parents. It's not a one-sided thing. It's no one person at fault. It really is, an active action plan that's really to say for everyone. We all have a role to play. And if we all start playing our role as we continue to move forward, we're going to start to realize that, things are a lot easier because those conversations are easier. We now are having conversations. My sister was in a line dance class. I'm not sure. I need to find about what this line dance class is about. Sorry, that caught me off guard. Okay, but we want to make sure that we're having conversations. And sometimes when we feel like we're not able to have the conversation, maybe the person isn't trying to have the conversations, that's where you tag them or share the video with them. And then ask them what do they think about what they saw, and see if you can get the conversation going. This is, I think, maybe week 4. So there are 4 weeks of topics. One includes that hard conversation of when you need to make sure you move forward with an assessment and not waiting, because once you think something is going on, it's still going to be a process that's going to take time. So do not wait until you want things to move quick and fast. It's going to be a process. It's going to take time, and it's going to be frustrating. So once again, who am I? I am Tanika Mayhew Butler. I am the lead consultant for Kendall Autism Support and Consulting. We provide trainings for businesses, whether they're face-to-face or webinars. We provide one-on-one support for families on this autism journey, helping you navigate the journey. I spent 27 years working in the school system, decided to retire early. Over those 27 years working, I also had a daughter who is on the autism spectrum. She has a diagnosis of autism and an intellectual disability. So we are her lifelong caregivers, but she's very much so independent. A lot of it has to do with safety and communication. But over that time as well, I'm looking for last year, you can find our journey on, this mirror effect. You can find our journey on, it's called A Crusade for Kendall on Amazon. It's where I share our journey from diagnosis to 18. And yes, Kendall is now 22, but it gives a lot of insight and hopefully allows that stigma to go away, because I share the good, bad, and the ugly in the book. Because I need people to understand that every journey is not this great journey that the child then ends up where they are living a life away in college. So, she is living a great life from where we were. We have come a long ways, and she continues to make improvements. So, A Crusade for Kendall, you can find this online at Amazon. And then this summer, I released a second book. Oh, here it is. And this is a workbook. I felt like after writing the story that I needed to include, figuring this all out, a workbook that went over some things that parents could use, those working in education, just the community as a whole. So the name of this is Building Bridges, the Autism Support Workbook. And this is only available on our website, which is www.kendall, KENDALLASC.org. Once again, the workbook is only available on our website. The journey you can find on Amazon. Hopefully you all were able to, gain some information and some tips that you can pass on or use, because remember I said, it's not just about the parents. It's about the parents, it's about the community, it's about businesses, that we've all got to do our part so that we are creating a more inclusive society, so that parents are not staying at home. I want parents to feel comfortable coming out. I don't want parents feeling as if they don't have to, they're scared to share with people they have a child on the spectrum. That's very disheartening. And I hear about it more and more. So let's take away that stigma that something is wrong or that the parents did something wrong. It just is what happened. It is what it is, like anything else. Same reason I'm only 5'4". It is what it is. So you just deal with it. When I was younger, I wore heels to compensate. So we've got to make sure we're not hiding our children. We're not embarrassed about our children. That we showcase their milestones even though they're different than their peers. There are things that Kendall probably will never drive. She really has zero desire anyway. She has zero interest in a cell phone, you know. But she has had great milestones, and when she has those milestones, we still celebrate them, even though they are different than the milestones of our friends who have children who are the same age. So we've got to make sure we're celebrating our babies. The more we're celebrating our babies and celebrating those milestones, all of that is a part of how we build a more inclusive community. So those of you who joined me after I started, I'll say again, all of the stuff you see behind me, it's beads. One of the things I encourage parents to do is find a hobby that has absolutely nothing to do with autism. And for me, that hobby turned into a side business. And I'll share the link later of where you're able to purchase items that I have made. So we have to stop hiding our awesome. Yes, we've definitely got to stop hiding our awesome babies. People know who Kendall is. And as I showed the picture, I mean, I'll show a video later. Kendall joined the party and did a dance with me and then disappeared. So all because she's used to being around people and people are used to being around Kendall. That's what it comes down to. The more we, have our friends and family around our children, all of those things are going to help to make sure we have a more inclusive community. Everybody has a role to play. No one person is to blame. So feel free to reach out to me at info@Kendall, KENDALLASC.com. If you have a question, if you are a business looking for training for your staff, whether it be face-to-face or webinar, reach out as well. We can make something happen. And I'm also available for speaking engagements myself. So all of those things we're here to do for the community. And I'm looking to make sure I haven't missed any questions. If I have, just let me know. But I'm checking to see. I don't think I have. And please make sure you share, tag, post. I'm here every Tuesday sharing this information. This is information I'm sharing for free. But I am going to, in late October, because I understand grandparents really need to understand how things are going. And it's a lot to explain to them when they hear that their grandbaby has a diagnosis of autism. So I will be offering a 2-part masterclass for grandparents. And be on the lookout for more information about that. And yes, the target audience is grandparents. I know when we tell them we have, we've got this diagnosis, they are just trying to figure out everything from the IEP, what the law means for them, how they can support all those different things. So I want to provide that for those grandparents, godparents, family members, so that they're able to get the information, because if you Google autism, you're going to be overwhelmed. It's a lot of information. And I want to make sure you're hearing information from someone who has walked the journey, and who I've watched other families walk the journey as an educator in the school system. So thank you for joining me tonight. Thank you, everyone. And I will see you all next Tuesday in these Facebook streets, as people like to say, where I want to take away that stigma we have when it comes to talking about autism, so we can have our children living in a very inclusive community, and parents are no longer staying at home. They are excited about going out with their children and not worried about the meltdown that may happen, because we can work through it, because life is going to keep on lifing, but we got to keep on living. I will see you all next week. Have a great one, and don't forget to share, tag, comment. I'll read the comments later as well, and reach out if you're looking for a trainer. Have a great one, everyone.